Greetings, YouTube. Happy Sunday. You know what's fun for me? You know what's a little random, a little fun? When somebody hits me up and is like, "Hey, Prof, I'm gonna send you something that a hacker posted, and then we can just kind of talk about it." What about that? How about that on a YouTube channel, huh? And I think to myself, okay, sure. So the first thing I want to do is shout out where this came from. About an hour ago, at the time of recording this, Frojo34, shout out to Frojo, hit me up along with Mr. Rich the Man, one of the best dudes I've ever had a pleasure of talking to on this community, and Marvel Champions in general. And this is the tweet description. He says, some hacker on MCOC showing graphic settings for Marvel Champions. Very interesting. Now, you might say graphic settings. This is getting pretty graphic already. Well, here's the deal. You look into it, and you see a minimum, a default, a max, and then frames per second 120. So, look, I deal a lot with frame rates and video export settings and even import settings for my video production classes. And one thing I know for sure is that some computers handle certain frame rates better than others. Some internet speeds handle frame rates better than others. I can't tell you how jealous I am of my fraternal twin that lives in New Braunfels, Texas. I live in a house that was built in the 1940s. It does not have the capability to run any kind of fiber internet ever. It's just too old. The neighborhood's too old. So I have to deal with what I call Oklahoma internet, which is a nice way of saying it feels like dial-up in 2022. Whereas he gets to run AT&T's fastest fiber network. And I can do things at his house on his network in terms of my video production, in terms of upload speeds, in terms of live stream capability that I can't do at my home studio of Oklahoma. Well, in the same way, some of you are watching this on a phone that's like 10 years old. Some of you are watching this on a phone that's 10 days old. And so maybe part of the Kabam solution for graphics is to say, hey, if you keep having dropped inputs, if you keep having DeX and parry issues, maybe you're going to have to put the graphics at a minimum and see if you have better performance. Maybe the game doesn't look as good. Maybe the game doesn't look as smooth. But maybe you're able to not lose so many champions, thus having to sacrifice more units and potions and revives, etc. Look, I don't know. That is just a thought. But if you're wondering why are there graphic settings, and there's 4 right now, frames per second 120, max, default, min, it reminds me of the settings that I have to select as a streamer on YouTube, where I can go with like the lowest performance. It's going to be pixelated, but it's going to be quick, or it's going to look less pixelated, but it's not going to be as quick. There's going to be more of a delay, etc., etc. I do think Kabam is trying to work very hard behind the scenes to change things, because they promised us in September, maybe October, but certainly by the end of November at the latest, that the game would be fixed. And there's a reason why we keep getting these Wednesday compensation packages for Alliance War and Alliance Quest, and occasionally the small but effective, depending on who you ask, potion and revive and energy refill compensation. It's because the game is still very much broken. So I applaud whatever hacker uncovered this, because I do think theoretically, and everything works in theory, so who knows, but theoretically this could be a solution to the bigger issue of devices not performing in ways that make the game hell. Some of you have told me that you have not experienced any bugs, any major issues for the last 4 months. So you just love the compensation packages because they're a bonus. Some of you have told me that you haven't really been able to play the game for most of the past 6 months. So the discrepancy of the devices is so obvious right now, even between the oldest and newest iPhones. And that makes sense. It's like, I don't know, trying to play something on a Nintendo 64 compared to a PlayStation 5, right? They're just different processors, different capabilities. I saw the same thing with upgrading to a 5G phone versus a 3 to 4G phone. when I realized my phone didn't have a capability of going to 5G and it was an iPhone 10, I felt like I was going back to like the 1980s. So what do you think about this hacker info? Please let me know in the comments. Shout out again to Frojo34 for the info. I appreciate it. As always, it's fun to talk about and nice to get out to the community for discussion.